My name is Dr. Ruth Doughton. I'm a board certified adult psychiatrist, and today I want to talk about why insulin resistance matters for mental health. Now, first, let's talk about what is insulin resistance. So, insulin resistance is when your body has been requiring high levels of insulin to manage frequent high glucose spikes or blood sugar spikes over time that are caused by meals that are high in carbohydrates, particularly refined carbohydrates and sugars. And over time, what happens is that insulin level has to get higher and higher, but your body eventually becomes tolerant to that insulin. And so the insulin eventually becomes less effective at managing those high blood sugar levels. And that's when you start to see your blood sugar levels increase. And so that's when people are normally identified as being insulin resistant, when we see evidence that their blood sugar has increased. But they've actually been becoming more and more insulin resistant over years at that point. So I've talked in other videos about how you can tell if you're insulin resistant, but let's talk about why this matters for mental health. What happens when you become insulin resistant is that you're not only insulin resistant in your body, but also in your brain. And when there's insulin resistance in the brain, what happens is that when a blood sugar load comes in, even though the blood sugar in your blood and in your cerebrospinal fluid in your brain is going to increase, your brain cells or neurons are not able to take up that blood sugar from the surrounding fluid and to use it for energy. So your neurons are essentially swimming in a sea of glucose, but they're starving because they're not able to use that for fuel. And so this is going to cause metabolic dysfunction, which is going to get worse and worse over time. This metabolic dysfunction in your neurons is what's going to lead to things like neurotransmitter imbalances, like deficiencies in serotonin or dopamine, or too much glutamate, which is the excitatory neurotransmitter, or too little GABA, which is the kind of relaxing neurotransmitter. So how do we know this? One, we know that there's a really strong correlation between insulin resistance and psychiatric conditions like depression, bipolar disorder, and others. And two, we've actually seen studies that show that when you correct insulin resistance, like with a medication called metformin, that these depressive symptoms can be reversed. So one, it's important that you know if you do have insulin resistance. And two, it's important to address that by working on dietary interventions or maybe potentially the use of medications, so that you are adequately able to fuel your neurons and so that they can do all the things that they need to do to make you a happy and healthy person. If you have any questions about this, feel free to add it in the comments below. I think this is not something that psychiatrists frequently talk about, but it certainly is something that they should be talking about and that is crucial to mental health. Wishing you all good mental health today, and I'll see you in the next one.